It's 11:37 on the 8th of June, and today's upload is with regard to the issue of bodily integrity damages and the issue of environmental damages that I'm experiencing in a PTRB accommodation. Now, this raises the matter of housing and the right to family and privacy, correspondence and abode. I'm a married mother, and since becoming a married mother, I've experienced the most outrageous experiences that are just unforgivable. There has been a neurosis of the mind of individuals that have been trespassing on my farm holdings of my marriage and ancestry since 2016. Now, they have perpetrated spiritual violence, they've trespassed onto private property, they've stolen belongings from my marital home, they have conducted spiritual violence in my marital home, and this is all as a new mother I've experienced this. So the issue that has relevance this morning, I'm going to just upload for the interest of the individuals that have a concern about human rights, civil liberties and right and wrong. As I've mentioned, in 2017 in my marital home, my spiritual light body was damaged by individuals that are treasonous and that are of offences against my son. They are up to this day still in contempt with regard to their offences of theft, defamation, violations, etc. So there has been work occurring on my marital property in Ardfart and Kilflynn, and there are individuals that are assuming that with unlawful actions, without my consent, the lawful, unlawful has been questionable. I've been experiencing human rights abuses and treason since I became a married mother. So the individuals that have been on my marital property and discussing matters concerning my marital property and my child have been of illegalities. Now, these issues are very serious. The people on property where they don't belong is very disrespectful and very unlawful. Now, the issue this morning with regard to bodily integrity and violations of privacy continuing and disruptions of the peace and computational programming that is not in any contractual form whatsoever is occurring in an abode and an environment that has damaged my body and the environment. So not only have they been violating whistleblower protection laws, not only have they been violating my ancestry and been treasonous, this is about the third or fourth spiritual assault that has occurred. Spiritual violence is continuing in this community by individuals that have failed in many ways, on many grounds. It's outrageous. They've damaged human anatomy, as I've mentioned in previous uploads, and this is ad nauseum. I'm going to repeat this on a day-to-day basis as a documentary of what has occurred. So in 2017, when my sacred light was damaged, it was utilised for developments that were not consented to. And there are legal eagles that think they have themselves protected with regard to this offence without communication, consultation, etc., etc. The legal eagles have been involved in offences against my child and I since 2016. So they're repeat offenders and they're of illegalities, and they have abused their positions, let's say, and have abused faith and religion and thought processes. So the matter of this abode, where I'm self-healing due to individuals not able to uphold their Hippocratic oath and their obligations, and that have been of negligence and misconduct, where I am self-healing has been damaged with these people tagging on my skin and in my bones where there used to be sacred light. Now, the issue of these individuals having very, very, very precious sacred light fragments from my body and tagging with artificial air paper. It's like air paper. and I've been trying to clear this filth from my environment, my abode, for the past 3 to 4 days. So they've violated information, they've violated privacy, they've been damaging nature and wildlife with my sacred life fragments, and there are legal eagles that think they have paperwork protecting them under the guise of legislation. Now, their offences commenced in 2016, and this offence is continuing to 2021, and it's treason. And the legal eagles with the bad paperwork and unlawful actions, they have no right to be discussing my farm holdings in Ardfarter and Kilflin. They have no right to be discussing my child, and they have no right to be perverting my privacy by means of paranormal and artificial. This is not a patient of any incredulous professional that has been of slander, misdiagnoses and malpractice. There has been GDPR offences also in this present environment. There have been false and fraudulent reporting. There have been exacerbatory offences, and there have been repeat offenders in my proximity. Now, the ozone layer in this community has been damaged due to these people's developments, and under no circumstances from my sacred light were they ever given any consent to use my sacred light body fragments for their exploitation, their violations and their offences. Now, in Ardfert in 2017, the damages done to my body were quite bad, and I was a new mom, and the evaluation, the assessment of value of those life fragments is exorbitant. It's a huge amount of. They're precious, and that was what happened to my body as a new mother in my marital home. And the individuals responsible are still causing offences today. So with regard to this present circumstance, there's PTRB violations, and there's obligations of the government that haven't been met as of yet. I'm waiting for the Ombudsman since 2017. My child is legally a missing person and he's been harmed in state care. So there's an issue of individuals not being able to approach the matters that have been caused, and that's all very serious. Now, as I said, there's been discomfort caused in my body, my lower abdomen, etc. And the disreputable, unreputable companies that are responsible for these damages have been very cheeky. They had no consent to discuss or intrude or to conduct or transact or communicate with regard to this person. And there are legal eagles that have safeguarded their offences. And against royal patronage, that's very dangerous. So the issue I'm raising with regard to the damages of the atmosphere, broadband, the writings on the walls, it's the only way I can come to terms with it. But artificial tagging on a woman's body where there was sacred light is what I'm tolerating at the moment. And I'm self-healing from 2 doctors' medical negligence. So this morning, there's PTRB violations continuing, protection laws being violated, proximity laws being violated, and trespassers on my marital property. And I haven't received the obligations that are to be met fulfilled. So there are obligations to a woman of legislation regarding recent positive developments in society that is being disrespected. I have helped and saved many, and my good work is being disrespected to accommodate fraud. So there's a cycle of fraud and falsehoods and fallacies continuing, and that's feeding the fuel of a situation that's very unhealthy for society and progress. So this involves the individuals that have an identity issue and that are of identity theft. This is what I'm confronted with on a daily basis, and the theft is vast. One light fragment, one particle of light fragment from my body in 2017 was 800 million euro. My property is inestimable, and I'm experiencing poverty and cheeky people in my proximity with artificial tagging and further offences. So 800 million is the value of one particular light fragment that in 2017 in my marital home, guilty culprits damaged. And there are legal eagles that think with falsifying the circumstances that they are safeguarding their damages to the ozone layer, to privacy laws and information, due to their developments with my light that they had no consent to ever touch. So from a spiritual perspective, from a moral perspective, from a legal perspective, there's a very dangerous situation occurring in Tralee. And I don't know who's sitting at the table thinking they're in control of negotiations, discussions, etc. regarding this entire matter. But the individuals that have been disrupting this community with damages to my child and my property and my creative and intellectual property and my profession and purpose have caused a very serious problem and very poor publicity as well, I might add. So the Honourable Government that was made aware of this matter in 2017, there's a very dangerous issue with regard to women and children's rights, health, housing, wealth, property, hereditary, culture. You've heard from me for the past 3 years, and I'm still awaiting the issues to be addressed. And those disrespecting my royal patronage of O'Regan and O'Higgins, etc., and Fernandez. This is all very serious. So I hope the Honourable Government is aware of how dangerous it is to, and they that have done this harm to society have insulted faith and religion and thought process. And your thoughts are private. You don't publicise people's privacy. You don't publicise people's information and creative work. So the developments of artificial progress in this community are disrespectful to the fellowship of recovery and sanity and sobriety. So there's a lot that could be said, but that's this morning's update. Artificial tagging of air paper bubbles on my body where there was sacred light. So I'd like the Church and State to start addressing these issues very promptly, because it's a little bit dangerous when royal patronage and a beautiful child and mother are very affected or disrupted due to ignorance and land grabbers.